Hey y'all. So we left off in the kitchen area, so that's where I want to start. So I mentioned that our house was built in 1887, and I want to finish what I started talking about the pantry. So the kitchen was only maybe 5 or 6 feet from the front window. It was not a galley kitchen, but it was very small. I wanted to open it up. They had remodeled it in the 70s, and I wanted to bring it more up to date. Now, the pantry is a dream I had. That I wanted a pantry. I actually wanted one with a screen door that you could open up and walk in a room. But we didn't have a room to do that we could figure out. So then I had researched and I realized that an open pantry might be the way I need to go. That way you could see everything. My sweet hunter did not want to add the additional 8 or 10 foot that we added onto the kitchen. He was set against it. My carpenters were set against it. They said the roof line would be hard to work with and we'd have problems. But I really, really wanted it. I knew that I wouldn't have a pantry like this, if I didn't have more square footage in the kitchen. So where I'm standing right here was a little bitty hallway, and I'm talking like right here, with an outside door to right here. And I couldn't handle it. So as much as I loved the house, I knew what I wanted. So we took it from there, and I told my girls, I showed them what Sweet Hunter had in mind for the kitchen, and I'm gonna go to the room where he wanted to have the kitchen now. So this is the room that Sweet Hunter wanted to turn into a kitchen. And this wood heater was not here. We call this the keeping room. And this wood heater was not here. That is the original mantle. It goes all the way up. We had it built up a little bit taller, but it had a fireplace, a non-working fireplace in it. And I was very sad because I wanted that fireplace. But Sweet Hunter took me and we bought a wood heater, and I really wanted wood heat, so we went and bought that, and it was something to get in this house. But this is what we call the keeping room. My realtor, Sharon, she is the one that told me what this room was back in the day. Now, when we bought this house, this big opening was not there for the kitchen. It was one small door to the left of the island and a wall. And the kitchen was cut off just to the right of the stove. It was, well, it might have been a little bit further because they had a refrigerator in there. I can't even hardly remember, isn't that awful? But we opened this up. My carpenters had to put a big beam in there to open it up. I told my children, I showed them this room right here, not that kitchen, but this room, which is the keeping room now. It's a simple room. I haven't done much decorating in here at all. But it had a round dining room table. I think it had a couple of rockers in it when we first saw it. And I just couldn't see a kitchen in there. Oh, he had it drawn out beautiful. I loved the stairway. And I could vision a comfy place sitting in front of the wood fire. And I also wanted a table. And my sister-in-law has a table similar to this. And I fell in love with it. It's got 2 leaves. And I looked and looked and looked till I found one. My friend and I went to like a antique store and I found it, and there was no question I was getting it. So you can see how this is laid out. I'm standing at the top of the stairs where it turns up to go up to my craft room. It's beautiful. We love it. I cook on this wood stove. So somebody asked me what my favorite room in the house is, and I guess I would have to say this room. It's small, it's cozy, and I just love it. I do have some more things I want to put in here, some decorating. Sweet Hunter and I kind of are on 2 different decorating things. He likes the slick. He wouldn't even hang a picture on the wall if it was up to him. I like pillows and lamps, and I don't like clutter, but I do like stuff, if that makes any sense. So I wanted to show you this. A friend made this for me and left it here when we were remodeling the house. It took us 7.5 months to remodel it. And she came with a basket of goodies and this. My daughter saw it, and of course I love the keychains on it, but my daughter saw it and she wrote, "Welcome to the farm, established 1887. That's almost 7 years ago that she wrote that, and it's still up there on that chalkboard. So this is actually the view from my kitchen and into the keeping room. And remember, this is the room. The keeping room is where Sweet Hunter wanted to build the kitchen. He wanted an island in the middle, and he wanted to build the kitchen in this room. I love my keeping room, and I'm so glad that I used reverse psychology on him and talked to my kids about what I wanted to do in the kitchen. So he's not here right now, so I can tell you about what I did, and I think he knows by now. I mean, it was almost 7 years ago. But what I did was I was about to cry, and I told the girls, I said, that room it could be really something. And he wanted to take this, and of course we've redone the sinks, the appliances, the countertop. I did paint and glaze the cabinets, and I got new handles for them. I did that myself. I took a Divine White color from Home Depot, and then I went to Home Depot and bought Java Brown glaze. I covered the cabinets in it, and in every groove you can see the Java Brown. I love it. I think it's beautiful, and I'm proud I did it. But what he wanted to do is he wanted to take this small kitchen, which was about, from where I'm standing, if you can see, let's see, okay, maybe 6-7 feet, I'm not sure. He wanted to take this and make me the walk-in pantry that I wanted. It would have been great.
I could have put a screen door on it, and I could have took all these cabinets out and put shelves in there, and we did talk about that. But I'm so glad that we decided not to do it. Now, I do not like cabinets. I don't like not being able to see in them, and I wanted shelves, and I wanted a pantry. For many, many years, I just used, in my other houses, I just used just shelves that you bought at Sam's or Walmart or whatever, and put them like in my laundry room. So I was real proud of how this turned out. There's so many things we did, it's hard to tell you all of them.
So I wanted to show you my island, and y'all know this is what I cook on a lot. From this side, this is what you see, and I've got a friend that's supposed to make me a wreath. She better get on it. And I wanted to take you and show you, I think this is like a 6-foot island. I put granite on my countertops, which I love, but I wanted the wood cutting board look on my island. And when I first got it done, and I'm a cook, so y'all know I cook a lot. When I first got it done, I decided that I needed a cutting board because I was afraid I was going to ruin my countertop. The only maintenance that this requires is it requires maybe once a year a lemon oil to be put on it. Clean it real good in a lemon oil. But anyway, my carpenter took the leftover cutting board and made me this cutting board to stay sat on the island, and I love it. Now, a lot of islands don't have storage, but we needed more counter space, more cabinet space, so I wanted drawers and cabinets. So I've got 4 drawers and 2 huge cabinets. Another thing that he did, and this was Sweet Hunter's idea, and I thought it was great, he put the, I hope you can see this, he put the island on wheels, on casters. They're big, they lock, so if you want it to just sit in one place, it's fine. If you need to move it to mop or whatever, or to just move it to do something else, you can just roll it out of the way. It is heavy because of the stuff I have in it, and it does not get moved a lot. So I want to show you one more time my pantry. It holds some of my appliances, it holds my bowls, it holds my canned goods. Those canisters up there, my sweet niece Santa got me. These bowls, except for the one in the middle, they were here at the farm, and I saved those. The one in the middle was my Grandma Cochran's, and this is just how we fixed it. Where when you walk in the kitchen or look at it from the keeping room, you see this, but when you're in the kitchen, you see my store-bought stuff. So I always know what I have. And of course, there's my collection of aprons. Y'all know about that. So I decided I better get in here while I'm doing this video and start making some cornbread, because Sweet Hunter's going to come home and he is going to be hungry. So, but I wanted to finish telling you about how I used reverse psychology on my husband. So you saw the keeping room and you saw what he wanted to do. It would have been beautiful. Oh, his plans were beautiful and all his ideas are great. But I'm the one that cooks, and I knew what I had in my mind and what I could do. So when I wanted to extend the kitchen, I told my girls. And my carpenters and my husband was sitting on the front porch. I'll never forget it. And let me get my iron skillet. Hold on. Okay, I gotta cook while I'm talking to y'all. So they were sitting on the front porch discussing what all needed to be done. And I told one specific daughter, Shannon, I said, this is not what I want
to do. It sounds beautiful, but it's not what I want. And if I'm not wrong, I actually had tears in my eyes. And like I say, not that it wouldn't have been beautiful and the pantry would have been awesome. I know it would, because everything Sweet Hunter does is great. He touches anything, he's great. He can see things that normal people cannot see before it's done. And I don't know that I could envision my kitchen. I couldn't envision how beautiful the pantry was gonna be. But I can take an idea and tell him, and he will find somebody to do it for me. And there, my oven's ready. And I love that. Anyway, so my daughter saw my emotions, and she went out and on the porch and said, Dad, let Mom do what she wants to in the kitchen. And he said, it's just going to be too hard to do. And the carpenters agreed with him. And I just stood there. And she said, Dad, just try it. Just try it. She knows what she wants in the kitchen. Just try it. And he went, she can do what she wants to. I never heard that before on the kitchen. So anyway, that's how I got my kitchen how I wanted it. And I absolutely love it. So before Sweet Hunter comes in, I want him to tell you a couple things, if I can get him to, about some things that he had done and some things that we went through. Of course, y'all know me, I'll probably do most of the talking. But I want to tell you how it led into us buying the farm. Now, this is kind of a sad story for us, and that's why I want to tell you before he gets here. So his mother got sick. She'd always had congestive heart failure. I was very close to her, and she got really sick with her heart, and it's hard for me to talk about it. But anyway, we made her a room and we took care of her. My husband and I, his brother, and his wife, Glo. So it was the four of us, and then all of our children, they all pitched in. Theirs and ours. They would come and visit grandmother. That's what we called her, was grandmother. And she'll always be grandmother. And she was one of a kind. And it was so sad to see how fast she declined. So I made one small pan of cornbread, and I'm going to make some cornbread sticks to go along with it. But I want to continue telling you the story of how we got here to the farm. And it is part of our story. So we fixed grandmother a room. Grandmother loved TV, and she loved to read, but she was a TV person. Grandmother wasn't a housekeeper. She never cared about that kind of thing. She loved her grandchildren. She loved her children. She loved me and Glo. There's no question about it. Grandmother had a rough life, and anybody that knows about her, it was hard. She lost her husband when my husband, her son, was 10 years old. He had a trucking accident. So back to the story of when she came to live with us and us taking care of her. So all four of us, along with our grandchildren, we would all pitch in. It was very hard. The doctors had not given her much hope. She didn't have much percentage of her heart working at that time. She was happy though. She was in a room that was hers. We tried to make her last days as comfortable as they could be. It was really hard on all of us. It really was. But we would do it again in a heartbeat. All of us would. When grandmother passed away, it was in our house. We lived in the city. We'd remodeled that house. We'll have to tell you that story sometime too. And we lived right down the road from my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, which I think was a God thing because they were there to help us. And when she passed away, it was a sad day. And the whole family came, and we were all together, and we had a lot of good laughs about grandmother, because she was funny. She was so funny. I could go on and on about her. So after the funeral and everything, and we got settled, just a few days later, I had started, when I went to bed, I would start hearing her call me. During the night, she did that a lot. And I could still hear it. So we had her close the door, so we didn't even have to look in there for a few days. And then one day, he was sitting on the couch. And he said, "Hey, Val, I found you a farmhouse." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I found you a farmhouse." And I said, "Are we looking for a farmhouse?" And he said, "We've always wanted to remodel a farmhouse." And I said, "Yeah, we did, but, you know, I didn't think it was time." But I had already decided that I didn't think I could stay in that house. I just didn't think I could. Little did I know that he had decided the same thing. So, he showed me the farmhouse, and he said, "Not only is it a farmhouse," he said, "but," he said, "it's got a river." "A river?" I said. "A river? A real river?" He said, "Yeah, a river." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Not only that," he said, "but it's 50 acres. I said, "50 acres? Oh, I thought we was through with the farm life." "Nah, I think I want to go back to the farm life." So he was scrolling on his phone, and he said, "Come here, you got to look at the pictures." So I looked at the pictures, and I said, "Wow, wow." Now, it looked nothing like this. We had to take it to the dirt floors. But we loved the feeling of home that even the pictures had. It was the feeling. You know, there's a saying that says home is a feeling, it's not a place. So I thought, a river? 50 acres? Oh my goodness. Wow. But we had only been in that house a year and a half, and we had remodeled it and spent a lot of time and money on that. And we loved that house, and we loved it. It was in the city. We loved living right down the road from our sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Well, Sweet Hunter's brother. And we loved that. We had a fire pit out there, and we would spend time out there. And honestly, we didn't work ourselves to death. And that's why we bought a place in the city to begin with, or so we thought, was to get us out of the farm life and working so hard. We thought our days of farming and mowing and working was over. Little did we know that grandmother had different plans for us, and so did God. So one day, he said, "Let's ride over there and see the place." So we rode and saw the farm. We rode down the road, and we looked at it, and we literally fell in love. It had the Victorian work on the porch, and I loved that. But Sweet Hunter could see more in it than that. We went back home and we talked about it. We decided that yes, we were going to have to move from the city. It just wasn't us, and I didn't want to stay in the house, and he didn't either. Loved the house though, loved it. So we decided we were going to start looking slowly. So we looked, and we would go right by a house. That's our rule of thumb, is to ride by a house before we ever call a realtor or anybody to show it to us. So we would ride by different houses, and then we would call them if we were interested. And we were definitely looking at the farm life again. So if I hadn't told you, when we first got married, Sweet Hunter said, we lived in a garage apartment, and Sweet Hunter said, we're gonna get a farm, a little farm, and the first thing I'm gonna buy you is a goat. Now, I've never been a girly girl, but I wasn't a farm girl either. I've learned a lot in 42 years. The first thing I got was a goat. Our first little house was 5 acres. Sweet memories. I would go back there in a heartbeat. I would go back there in a heartbeat. Small house, 4 babies. Loved it. We had 1 car, and it was 30 miles away. This little farm that we bought was 30 miles away from where Sweet Hunter worked. So he had to drive 30 miles one way there and back every day. At that time, he worked in an office. He drives a lot more than that now in his job. But I was home alone with 4 babies. That's a whole nother story. I got story after story after story I could tell you about that. And we'll talk about that one day. Sweet memories. I hung clothes on the line. We didn't have a dryer. That's where I learned how to can. That's where I learned how to freeze food. And that's where I learned how to garden.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the farm. I think Val was kind of telling you a little about her story about the farm, so I'll let her start it off again, and I'll put my 2 cents worth in.
Okay, so I think I got to the part where he was on the couch and he said he found us a farmhouse, and then I told you about we decided to ride by it, and we both fell in love. Now this is it was built in 1887.
So actually we rode by here, I guess I don't know if it's the first time we've seen it or what, but anyway, there's a lady out front, and we just asked her if we could walk around it, and she said no. She said we need to deal with the real estate company. But to go back a little, probably one of the reasons I was even interested is we'd flipped a lot of houses through the years. And so I wasn't really that scared about taking on something like this because I had the experience of going through a bunch of houses. But anyway, so after that we left, I think, at time. She said she'd rather us just go through the real estate agent and let her kind of take us around. But anyway, us being who we are, of course, we come back a couple of days, and as we were leaving, I don't think anybody was home that day, so as we were leaving, we were just kind of easing back down the road to the highway, and we ran into this gentleman in a truck. And he was going slow, I was going slow, and I think we just said, hey, how you doing and all, and I think maybe I mentioned that we was just looking at the farm, and he happened to be the owner. And he said, after talking a few minutes, he said, would y'all like to look at it? And of course, that was that was for sure what we wanted to do. So we followed him back to the house, and I guess that's where it began, right there.
So we were so excited that day, and we were kind of in shock, but he was so nice and so friendly, and I just let Sweet Hunter lead us in. And he took us right in the house.
And once we got in, look around and all, it was pretty rough shape. But the more we looked, the rougher it looked. But we still knew that we could do something with it. It was something that we could hopefully we could really make it a nice place. And I wanted something to feel like an old farmhouse, but I wanted to have all the modern conveniences was my goal. We probably stayed here at least a couple hours.
At
Me and
least.
Bruce talking, him tell me a little history of the place and all. And I think Val was just out walking around checking it out. But me and Bruce, we went like from room to room. Like I say, he had a lot of history. He had to tell us, and you could tell he really loved this place.
I'll tell you what I was doing. I was taking pictures. I loved everything about the place. And we still got some of the stuff that they left here. But I took pictures of everything. And the woman, this guy's mother that originally owned the place, how long did they own it?
I think they bought it since maybe 1957, I think.
So I remember he told Randy, wasn't it something about all three of the boys were they stayed upstairs?
I think so.
And they used to crawl out the window,
And slide down the antenna post.
slide down the
To
antenna.
sneak out at night.
Yeah, that's what it was. But anyway, I was taking pictures, and I was taking pictures of stuff, not the house.
Anyway, after we got through looking at it with Bruce that day, we looked around. We'd go from one end of the county to the other, looking at different places and all, but we'd always come back to this place, you know, for the acreage, the house, the price.
The river.
Yeah, the river, which was really a big deal to
And
me.
we called it the River House
Yeah,
back then.
Yeah, which was really a big deal being on the water. But anyway, so one day I got our real estate agent, her husband was a carpenter and all. So I thought, well, I'm going to get him to come over here and check it out and see what he thought about it. So they come over and we go in and check everything out. And he said, under no circumstance do you want to buy this place. He said, it is way too rough. Well, I don't know, just something told me that we could do it. So
And it wasn't the first time he's took something rough and made something beautiful out of it.
so I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Maybe the good Lord just giving you something, I don't know, that you can do something with it. So we decided to make an offer. So, but I could tell that the owners were real attached to this place. This was their childhood home and everything.
But they didn't live here all the time.
They just came, I think, on weekends.
He had another farm.
Yeah, another farm. So they just came on weekends. But I could tell he was very attached to it. And so we made an offer, and they didn't accept it. So we still looked at, different places, anything I could find that I thought sounded interested, we'd go look at it. But it would always come back to this place, with the pluses and minuses. And this place always came out on top.
We fell in love.
And so I guess maybe 3 months goes by. And then one day we get a call. And they said, we'll know if we're still interested. And they were ready to accept the offer.
So from there, going back just a little bit, our other house that I was telling you about earlier in the city, this is why we know it was a God thing. We put it up for sale, and it sold. You put a for sale by owner sign up, and it sold in what?
Maybe 3 days.
Yeah, quick. And it just so happened it had to happen to be somebody that lived on that road that was wanting to downsize, and somebody had knocked on their door wanting to buy their house, and they didn't even have it for sale. So that shows you how God works.
So anyway, after we did the closing I started looking around for some carpenters because I knew it was going to be a big job. And just so happened a friend of mine suggested a guy he knew here that's the carpenter. And I talked to him and told him what I had and all. He said, well, it'll probably be at least 2 or 3 months before I can even start on it. And so, I couldn't find anybody else. So, just so happened in a couple of weeks, he calls me and said, hey, I'm kind of in between jobs. Something happened on one of these others. And he said, do you mind if I come over there and get started? Of course, I was tickled to death to get started on it. And one thing that really worked out, and I could have really been in some serious trouble, but I got the best carpenter ever. And he just had himself and a helper. But it was as smooth as you could ever imagine what all he had to do. I mean, once we got in here, I mean, we had to replace the seals around most of the house, all new floor joists, completely all new electrical, complete plumbing, everything new, all new wires, all new plumbing, everything. And it was really, when you got down to it, because you never know on these old houses what you're going to get into. So you get into one thing and it might 10 other things later before you get that thing fixed. You run into so many things. But we couldn't ask for better carpenters, and it couldn't have went really any smoother. It took us probably close to 8 months to from the time we bought it. I think we bought it in May, and we moved in right a day or two before Christmas of that year. So, you know, around 8 months. But if I hadn't got who I got as the carpenter, I could really been in trouble, because we really got into some stuff that we had no ideas. But Don pulled us through. He did a great job.
Yes, he did. So while we were remodeling this place, we stayed in grandmother's condo. We had bought her a condo before she got sick, and she loved it. She absolutely loved it. And so that gave us a place to stay, which was another God thing. God was with us the whole way, and that's why we call this our forever farm. We're blessed, aren't we?
We sure are. Okay, I'm tired of talking.
You talked more than you've ever
I
talked.
know, but I got cows to feed.
You got cows to feed.
Yeah. So give me a little goodbye kiss.
Do you really have to go feed the cows?
Gotta go. Girls are waiting on me.
Situated.
Yeah. We home. Huh? We home?
We're home.
Hello?
Let's don't swing. We're gonna make
Hello?
them. We're gonna make them
I'm
dizzy.
sorry.
Situated.